Hey, fierce feminine. So I got a question for you. My question for you. Oh, sorry. That's my chair. I've got a really squeaky chair, and then I feel self-conscious that it's gonna sound like a fart, but it's not, it's my chair. Anyways, I was going to say I have a question for you. Um, do you just always, not always, but have you caught yourself in situations where you complain about your job or you complain about your relationship or you chase like a holiday, like, oh, I desperately need a holiday, desperately need a holiday. And then you get to the holiday and then you're like, oh, I wish I could just relax and enjoy the holiday because now I'm thinking about all the other things I need to be getting on with. Or you're on the holiday, then you're like, oh, why is it so hot? Or why is the weather not good enough? Or you're on the beach and you're like, oh, why is it sandy? Like, do you notice that sometimes it's like you're just never satisfied? Like, it doesn't really matter what you're aiming for, it doesn't matter what you're going for. There's always that question of either I wish things were different in the sense of like things could be better, or I miss the good old days. Like, do you catch yourself in this thought pattern? Well, if you do, then you want to stick around for this episode because we're going to be talking why are we never satisfied. Before we get into it, though, let's do our emotional check in or mental health check in. Someone asked me the other day, like, what's the difference between like emotional check in and mental health check in? I'm like, good question. Because we know the right side of our brain is the emotional side of our brain. I think mental health almost gives the impression that you're only really talking about what's going on inside of your head. Whereas emotions, we feel emotions all over our body, right? You can feel your hands tensing up, or your hands going into a knuckle when you get angry. You can feel your throat closing up when you feel sad. So I feel like emotional check-in is related to your mental state, but emotions, I feel you feel them more in the rest of your body, not just your head. So that's how I kind of like differentiate between mental and emotional check-in. um so saying that, how are you feeling emotionally right now? If you're feeling a certain emotion, can you identify it in your body? And while you take the time to think about it, I'm gonna take the time to think about how I'm feeling right now. um how am I feeling? I'm feeling okay. Um I would have said this in the last episode, but I don't know, there's a bit of like a sadness going on, but I honestly can't tell you where it's coming from. I'm getting distracted. Guys, my view right now, I can see outside my window and I can see the garden. So I'm getting distracted by like foxes, birds, and then now I can see my neighbor and his partner in the garden, and I'm wondering what they're doing. And I'm trying not to be distracted, but I'm getting distracted. But what I was going to say is, I feel this like wave of sadness, and I'm trying to figure out where it's coming from, what thought process is causing that sadness, and I can't really pinpoint it. But I do really think it might just be the remnant, the leftover from my self pity last week, which I mentioned in last week's episode. So that might just be that. But in terms of the sadness, I definitely feel like my throat feels like a bit raw. Like, you know, when you want to cry, but you're not crying? That's how I feel actually emotionally. While I was saying all of that, and while I was doing that whole entire monologue, I hope you had time to check in on your emotions as well. And if you could identify what you're feeling in your body, number one, but number two, if you could trace it back to um, a thought or a scenario that may have triggered that emotion. So, ladies, I said, we're going to talk about why we are never satisfied. Why we never satisfied? Like, honestly, I'm going to give you an example, and it might feel like a light-hearted example, but it's still a relevant example nonetheless, because I feel like even if it might feel like a light-hearted example, because we're going to talk about my hair, um, I think it really just gives an insight into me as a person. And so when I share my story, I want you to look at your story as well. And even if what you're currently facing might feel lighthearted, I feel like you should still pay attention, because it will give you an insight into any thought patterns you may have, any behavioral patterns you may be experiencing, any life patterns in general that you may be experiencing that might be stealing your joy, might be stealing your happiness in general. So, like I said, I'm going to talk hair today. Ladies, we know that hair is such a big deal to us. And I wanted to say specifically Black women, but obviously the only reason I can say that is because I'm a Black woman myself. I've only had the experience of having the type of hair Black women typically have. So I can only really speak from that standpoint. But I suppose I can't say specifically because I don't know the experience that other women have when it comes to their hair. But when I say us Black women, we know that we've come through a journey when it comes to our hair. Um, Me personally, I've tried so many different hairstyles. I've tried so many different hair choices when it comes to my hair. And now, some of you may have already immediately noticed, which sometimes I feel like you can't tell when you look at my hair. Sometimes they just look like little mini twists, but I am locked. So I chose to lock my hair dreadlocks. For some people who may not know what dreadlocks are, Google's your best friend. I'm not going to spend time trying to explain what that means. But I made the conscious choice towards the end of 2023 to lock my hair. And for me, it was quite symbolic. In the sense that I felt I was choosing to make my life more easier, to make my life, to go with the flow of life. I was really tapping into my spirituality, and I'd learned and done my research that growing dreadlocks really does help with your spirituality, and it does really help teach you lessons. And I'm going to tell you now that I definitely agree with that. I feel like my hair, I am learning through growing my dreadlocks. But the reason I'm using my hair as an example to have this conversation of why we're never satisfied is because I was gonna say I'm slowly, but it's more quickly starting to notice that I seem to be stuck in this behavioral pattern where, I mean, I had this awareness, but I felt like I was working on it and I felt like I was making progress. But now with my dreadlocks, which I'm going to use an example, but also I noticed with me being an entrepreneur that um, the pattern is still coming up. And by the pattern, what do I mean by that? For years, I was always chasing, I was always forward looking. It was always, I want a new job, I want a new promotion. Like, I was never satisfied with where I was. And sometimes it was partly to do with the fact that I felt like I could be giving more, I could be doing more. I felt like I was being undervalued. Like, there was a role that played in my dissatisfaction in life. But I feel like I'd be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't being honest and putting my hand up and saying, "Oh, my battery's about to die. Bear with me. Let me plug in my battery before this thing like dies on me. Bear with me 1 second." Okay. Okay, we're back. I just plugged in my laptop. But yes, I was saying that for the most part there were like reasons why I was chasing more from life. But honestly, now I know, like, it's not like all shock horror. But through my healing journey, through my spirituality, I started to understand that um the way my thinking has been wired and the way my perception on life has been wired, um I was always on the chase for something. I was always constantly seeking something. So to be honest, it didn't really matter at the end of the day. And ultimately, if I carried on the way I was carrying on in my life, there'd be no amount of money, there'd be no amount of professional status, there'd be no amount of joy, happiness, there'd be no perfect romantic partner that would have been able to satisfy that constant chase. And the reason there would have been no way to satisfy the chase is reason number one why we're never satisfied is because um I was struggling to be honest with myself. I wasn't really honest in terms of like I knew I wanted more. I knew I was always forward looking. I knew I was always like, it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough. But I never really asked myself, why wasn't it enough? Like, why is it that um, I would constantly tell myself, if I get a new job, then I'd be happier, then it'd be enough. But then I get that new job, and now I'm like, well, it's not enough. Like, why was it never enough? And now I know it's because I was never honest with myself. And if we go back to my locks, like I made that conscious choice to set up my locks, to grow my locks. And I started growing out my locks. And I was like, oh my God, they look so cute. I remember when I got them, I was so happy. I felt happy. And a lot of you will notice this, that you'd be like, oh, I need to change jobs. I need to change jobs. You change the jobs. And for the first 2, 3 months, you'd be like, oh my God, it'll be the honeymoon period, right? You'd be like, oh my God, I'm loving it. It's so good. And I was like that with my looks. And even in the past, with every new job I got, every new promotion I got, every new relationship I got, there'd be that honeymoon phase with my hair. There'd be the honeymoon phase where I'm like, yes, I made the right choice. It's all gravy. It's all well and good. Life is perfect. But then the happiness would be only fleeting. And I know by now I've got to that stage in my life where I understand that happiness really is an emotion. So um, you can't constantly be happy, but there is contentment. And for the most part, you can maintain a more stable level of contentment in your life. And really, we should be striving for contentment as opposed to happiness. But that didn't take away from the fact that yes, I felt like a short-term joy, but then it was like on to the next one. And before I knew it, even with my hair, yes, I'd made the intentional choice to lock my hair and I'd done my research. I felt like I was doing it for the right reasons. I actually felt like I shared the now. One of the reasons you're never satisfied. Reason number one is that you're not honest with yourself. But honestly, I felt that when I chose to lock my hair and have dreadlocks, I felt like I was being honest with myself. And I felt like I tapped into the why of getting locks. And I feel to help you start to feel more content and start to feel more happy, you really want to tap into why it is you're going for what you want. If you're going for a new promotion, why is it you're going for a new promotion? If you're saying that marriage will make you feel better, marriage will make you feel happier, why do you believe the marriage will make you feel happy? So the first step as to why you're not feeling satisfied is perhaps you're not being honest with yourself in terms of that constant chasing and in terms of that new goal you're wanting to achieve. Like, why is it you're wanting to achieve that? Tapping into why and really understanding why, like going back to my example with my hair and my locks, really doing my research and really trying to understand like why is it that I wanted to get locks? Is it for the lifestyle? Is it that it's going to make my life more easier? Is it that it's going to make my hair grow faster? Is it that whatever it is, why is it you want to have that? So to help you start to feel more satisfied before you make that, sorry, I feel like the laptop, I keep shaking the table and it's shaking the laptop. So I might just, and I'm shaking it again. For those of you who can see the visual, you understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, I'm going to take my hands off the table so I stop shaking it. But definitely, if you find you're someone who is in that constant loop of like, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, on to the next thing, or you go on to the next thing and you're not happy, or it makes you happy for a little bit and then you're chasing more, You really want to be honest with yourself. And part of being honest with yourself is like tapping into why you need it. And even if it's just like, oh, because I need more money, like really keep asking yourself, why do you need more money? Oh, I need money to travel more. Why do you want to travel more? Oh, I want to travel more because I want to open up my horizons. Why do you want to open up my horizons? I want to open up. And I find this is helpful when you keep drilling down into the why. It's so important to help you with longer term satisfaction, because ultimately I find that for the most part, one of the reasons we're not satisfied with our choices longer term, and one of the ways we steal our joy by not drilling into the why, is because very often this constant chasing could be wanting to satisfy an emotional gap that you're yet to address. And I definitely found that in my journey, like all these jobs I was chasing and all of this, it was because I lacked self worth, and I felt like these things will make me feel better. It will make me feel happier. So that was me for my professional life. But with my lock journey, I'm going to tell you now, it definitely wasn't to do with lack of self worth, because at that point, I'd really been working on my healing journey. I'd really been working on myself. And I had gone through that phase of like really taking my time to understand why I wanted my looks, and what it was about looks I felt would give me contentment longer term. So I ticked that box. So that wasn't my why when it came to not being satisfied with my hair. I think what was causing dissatisfaction, which is reason number two why you may never feel satisfaction, is patience, or being impatient in general. I'm gonna tell you now, even if I've honestly, like, I studied yoga, I dabbled in Buddhism for a while. I've definitely really been tapping in on my spirituality. I meditate every day. I've been working on myself. Uh, I've worked on myself. I've been working on my level of confidence, but one behavioral pattern that is still coming up for me, and I know impacts my level of satisfaction, my level of enjoying what is going on around me, is that impatience. So I know this is like leftovers from previous behavioral wiring that was going on inside of me from from growing up, my experiences. But I think having come from Nigeria, being born and raised in Nigeria, like the hustle hard mentality was ingrained inside of me. The work hard, the work hard, the go, 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 go. The like you had to be seen as constantly doing something. Like I remember growing up, and I feel like a lot of women of color will be able to relate to this story. Even if you can't relate to having dreadlocks, I'm sure you can relate to this story. But like it's like my mom, like she could never see me just sitting down enjoying myself and chilling. You always had to look busy. I felt like I had to constantly look busy in my home, and it wasn't just in my home. I think even in school, like if you weren't doing something, if you weren't busy doing something, like you felt like you'd get in trouble. So I feel like there's definitely still that going on in my psyche. And as much as I've been working on myself, as I've been working on like really learning to live in the moment and enjoy the present moment, I do still have a level of impatience in me, that makes me not be satisfied with where I am in life. It makes me not be satisfied with my goals and my accomplishment. And it does make me not satisfied, like with my hair sometimes. Like sometimes I'm like, why is it taking so long to grow? And like even now, like ladies, if you do have dreadlocks, you will know that shrinkage is real, especially at the start of your journey. So I've gone through this phase where actually my hair, the length of my hair looks a lot shorter now than when I first started my locks. And I'm just like, "Arr," and instead of me to just be in the moment and enjoy them at this phase and learn them and understand my hair and work with my hair and be like, okay, what are styles I think will be cute for my hair? I find myself looking in the mirror and going like, ah, it's gonna look so good when it's long. I can't wait for my locks to be super long. I can't wait for my locks to be waist length. I can't wait to, and then I see my, which wait, that's gonna be the next point we're talking about. But I was gonna say, I go on social media, I'm just innocently looking up like lock styles for short hair, but then I see other people with like really long, amazing dreadlocks, and I'm like, oh my god, like, I if only my hair was that long, if only my hair was that long. And really what is happening is I'm being impatient, and this is what steals from your happiness, like that impatience of what's next, and that impatience of constantly chasing is what's not making you satisfied. And you may find, if that resonates with you, then definitely do a journaling session where you try and pinpoint and trace back what may be causing this impatience. Is it related to your um, lack of self worth? Like maybe you feel like you're not deserving of these things, or maybe or maybe you have that thing in me, like I have, where growing up, I was made to constantly feel like I had to look busy and be busy, and I'd get in trouble if I didn't look and feel busy. Is that what's causing it? Your impatience? Because to help you start to feel happier and more satisfied in life, you really want to learn to be patient, kind, and caring with you, with your circumstance. And you really want to be patient, exercise patience in actually enjoy what's going on in this present moment, instead of like having that urge to like wish you had things like, oh, things are not like they used to be. Because I've heard of people, so I'm that person. There's two camps of people, by the way. I should have started the episode by saying this. Typically there's two camps of people who are constantly forward looking and constantly chasing for the next best thing, and people who are constantly looking in the past and reminiscing of the past and nostalgic about the past, like, oh, things are never the same, things are not like they used to. And they let this, either being stuck on the past or being fixated on the future, steal from the present moment. And this could be what's causing your dissatisfaction. This is what could be making you not satisfied in life. This is what could be making you not satisfied with your accomplishments. And forget just accomplishments, like this is what is making you miss your current situation. This is what is making you miss what's currently going on in front of you. Because it might feel like such a trivial example, but even with my locks, for example, my hair, like just that tiny shift in perception. Because I was like, even this morning, I was like, oh, my hair's annoying me, like they're just not sitting right, they're just not like doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm like, okay, when they get longer, I'm sure they'll look so good. I'm sure they'll cascade so amazingly, and like it's really gonna look good on me. But then I was like, hang on a minute, like instead of like being fixated on what they could look like how about I work with what I have in this current moment? How about I work with the current length of my hair and try and find a cute style? And I threw on this scarf. For those of you watching the video, you probably already saw the scarf and was like, oh, her scarf looks so cute. Yeah, they do, I know. And honestly, like even just that tiny shift, and like, why don't I work with what I have instead of like wishing for what it could be? Like that made me be in the present moment and play around. It took me a little while, but I played around with my hair and I was like, oh, I like it. I like the way it looks now. So learning that, learning to be more patient, but also trying to pinpoint the root cause of your impatience is important. Trying to pinpoint, if you're that person who's always focused on how things were and things are no longer the same, things are no longer like they used to, try and trace back in your history what could potentially cause that? Like, was there an adult around you who always used to talk about, like, oh, things were better in the past? Or are you someone like me, similar to me, like where you always had to look busy all the time? Is that potentially what could be causing you having impatience basically when it comes to your circumstance? So definitely do a journaling session and try and pinpoint and trace back. And what helps you once you've traced it back to the past situation, I find what helps is just knowing that, okay, this is like a leftover behavioral pattern. It's not necessarily that I still feel that way. It's just that it's been ingrained inside of me and it's going to take a while for me to rewrite that part of me. So you may find that helpful to help in improve your level of satisfaction in life and your current situation overall. And that will lead to the third reason, which I already kind of spoke about when I spoke about like going on social media and seeing all these people with really amazing hair and being like, why is my hair not like theirs? Comparison. I'm sure, ladies, you may have heard of this, but if you haven't, and if you are unaware of this, then comparing yourself is definitely one surefire way to steal your joy. It's one way to make you feel like a failure. It's one way to make you feel like you're never happy with what you have. It's one way to make you feel like you never have enough. Like if you keep comparing yourself to other people, what other people have, or also if you keep comparing yourself to this so-called future that doesn't even exist. Like take me being fixated on the future and me being fixated on like, oh, my hair would look so cool when it's longer. It's like this is a reality that hasn't even happened. And I'm letting a reality that hasn't even happened, a potential future, steal from my present moment because I'm comparing what I currently have to what it could be. Or I'm comparing it to what it was, right? When I used to do crochet, when I used to do extensions. I'm like, I used to look so good when I had really long extensions. Like, if you're comparing to past scenarios or future scenarios that have never even happened, or people around you, you're not going to feel satisfied. So, you really want to be more mindful of comparisons. You really want to be more mindful of the so-called what if and the so-called like what it used to be or what it should be. You want to be mindful of those two camps because they can steal your joy and they can make you feel like you would just never be satisfied if you're constantly comparing yourself to other people or so-called past scenarios, or like things were better in the past or things will be better in the future. Like if you keep comparing yourself to past, future, or others, then it's just going to affect your mental health and it's going to affect your level of contentment with you as a person, with your identity as a person, and with your lifestyle as a person as well. So bear that in mind. That could be one of the reasons you're not feeling satisfied, or one of the reasons you won't be satisfied if you keep comparing yourself to past experience or future experiences or others around you. And now moving before we move on, ah ah the Nigerian girl's coming out. Okay, anyway, what I was going to say is I'm gonna pause because I haven't done this in a while, ladies. I haven't spoken about Terami. For people who have listened to really old episodes, you will know that I have a link to a website or a shop called Terami. It's basically an essential oil, organic therapeutic grade. Not basically, is this oils are beyond basic. It's organic therapeutic grade essential oils. I currently actually on the oil burner. I want to show you, but the oil burner is really hot. I was like, should I show them? Why am I doing this to myself? I'm trying to lift it up out. You don't need to see my oil burner. I tried to lift up the oil burner and it's really hot. But like you would, all you'll see is the candle lit anyway. You can't even see the oil. But anyways, on the oil burner today, I have got lemongrass and this place smells divine. It's so good. On the Terami brand, there are 3 essential oils: lemongrass, tea tree, and lavender. Click the link in the description and you can check it out if you're on the market for really amazing gifts. Honestly, these oils are amazing. And if you check on the website, it will let you know like additional benefits for essential oils. But anyways, what I was going to say is the fourth reason why we are never satisfied. Honestly, guys, if you're in London at the moment, like, what is this weather? I'm so like, I've got this jumper, um, cardigan, and now I'm starting to feel hot. And I'm like, I was cold a second ago, and now I'm feeling hot. Anyway, squeeze me. Reason number four why we are never satisfied in life is let's talk self-pity. So, ladies, we gonna have to be honest. I had to be honest with myself. Um, I think sometimes we have a tendency to wallow in in our our suffering, wallow in our pain. And this is not me taking away from like the intensity of a situation, right? If you feel like, why is life happening to me? Why do bad things keep happening to me? Why am I in this situation? Why is life so unfair? Um, I used to do this a lot in my early 20s. I'll give you an example. I'm like, oh, I'm such a loner. Why does nobody like me? Why can't I make friends? Meanwhile, when people try to talk to me, I'm like, why is this person trying to talk to me? And I'd run away from them. And I was really socially awkward. And I knew I was socially awkward, but I didn't do anything about it. But I chose to like blame everyone else around me and being like, why does no one want to be my friend? Or why can't I make friends when I wasn't making an effort to actually make friends? And when people would actually try and be my friend, I'd push them away. Um, so that's an example of like feeling sorry for yourself. So it's not to take away from um, any pain or any suffering you might be feeling from a certain situation. But one of the reasons we lack satisfaction, like general satisfaction in life, is if we allow ourselves to be in victim mode where we choose to blame everything and everyone around us apart from ourselves, and where we lack accountability. To help improve your level of satisfaction in whatever it is you do, relationships, personal life, professional life, weight loss journey, whatever it is, you really want to start taking accountability. If you stay in a space where you're just like blaming everyone around you, blaming everything around you, like I said, I did this in my early 20s for so many things. Like, oh, the reason I lack self confidence is because I wasn't taught emotional awareness. The reason I lack self confidence is because my parents used to bring me down. The reason I lack self confidence is like I was blaming everyone and everything. I was blaming my society. I was blaming my culture. I was blaming my tradition. I was blaming my parents. Literally, everyone. I was putting the blame on them, and I was taking no blame or no accountability whatsoever. This was creating situations where I would then, like I keep saying, I would try for something, or I'd make an effort, right? I'd make an effort to make a new friend in my early 20s. And then I'd make a friend and I'd be like, oh, why is she treating me this way? When really my communication skills weren't up to par. And instead of just working on my communication, yet again, I'd like blame that friend for like everything that was going wrong. Um, and I'm giving an example of me in my early 20s, but even now in my 30s, I'm trying to think, and even like following on from how many years of like self healing journey, and even like getting therapy and coaching, like following on 10 years from therapy and healing journey and all of that. I would say, from the most part, I've really built my level of accountability. I really do take ownership of like the role I played when things went wrong, or the role I played when things aren't going right, or the way things aren't going the way I want them to go. I have really learned to take accountability of like the role I played, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie and pretend to you guys. Like, even if I've been on a self healing journey, and even if I've gone to therapy, even if I've got coaching, I've got support from coaching. Like, even if I've got a degree in psychology and I've got a qualification in freaking transformational coaching, even if I trained to be a freaking yoga teacher and I've built my spirituality, there are still moments when I find myself wanting to dip back into that victim mode and like pointing the finger at like life, like why is life so unfair? Like, I do find it's not as often and it's not as frequent as it was in my early 20s, for example, but even now in my mid 30s, there are still moments where I find myself wanting to dip into like feeling sorry for myself and blaming everyone around me and everything around me instead of taking accountability. So bear that in mind. If you feel like you're constantly not satisfied in life, then ask yourself how accountable you are, like how much accountability you hold for the role you play as to why things aren't going the way you think they should. Like, are you holding yourself accountable? And if you're someone who's aware of accountability, if you're someone who has been taking ownership, do bear that in mind that transformation takes time, change takes time. Learn to be kind to yourself, but also note that you may still have a tendency to fall into self-pity, but that's okay because you have that awareness, you can help pull yourself back out of it. But you really want to work on that. If you feel like you're never satisfied in life, learn to take accountability and watch how things are going to change. Like, really, I'm getting distracted by this fluff in my in my hair. This is the one thing I don't like about like recording on Zoom, because I didn't want to overwhelm myself and be like, I'm going to get a brand new computer, a brand new laptop to make the quality of my recordings great. But sorry, ladies, especially those listening on the audio, they're like, what is she talking about? But I do get really distracted by my, like, seeing myself on the screen. Anyway, I've taken the fluff out of my hair. What I was, I was going to share a final reason. So, final reason as to why. Oh, guys, sorry. Got distracted again. For a second, I thought I didn't press record. I was like, I can't believe I've been talking for how long and I've not recorded it. Anyway, fear over, which is the last reason why you feel you're never satisfied. Was that reason number five? Reason number five, I lose track of like counting. I was like counting them and then I forgot to say. But reason number five is fear. Fear is one of the reasons why, girl, we may never feel satisfied. I spoke about it when I spoke about impatience, but for me, I've over the years come to understand that a fear of worth was one of my big fears in life. A fear of failure, a fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection. Like, these have been like the biggies I've been working on when it comes to my growth and development journey. When it comes to my spirituality, I've been working on all those fears I listed. But if you are yet to identify your big fears, like, people talk about fear of heights. I used to be like, people used to go, what's your big fear? I'm like, I'm scared of heights because, again, it's more socially acceptable to talk about being scared of heights than to talk about not feeling good enough, right? It's more socially acceptable to be vulnerable about being scared of spiders. But how dare you say you don't think you're worthy of love, right? So, again, don't feel like there's something wrong with you because you haven't been able to openly acknowledge that you fear rejection. It took me how many years to be able to openly say that. But one of the reasons you may never be satisfied is there are fears driving you intrinsically and driving your decision making, driving your experience, driving how you experience life, how you perceive life. So you really want to start identifying what those hidden fears are, those fears that you don't want to talk about to people, those fears you don't want to open up about. What are these fears? Because they're part of the reasons why you're not feeling satisfied in life. They're part of the reasons why you are failing to enjoy the present moment, why you're failing to be in the present moment. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. Well, not the other day, it was a little while ago. And she was talking about an issue she had had in a relationship. It was coming up as communication issues. And I did a bit of coaching with her, and we got to the root cause, which is the um, she fears being alone, or she fears ending up alone. So because she fears ending up alone, um, she also fears speaking up in a relationship because she doesn't want to be rejected. She doesn't want to be turned away by this partner. She's so worried about speaking up, ruining her relationship, that she's just not speaking up at all. So if you notice that you don't feel happy in whatever your situation is, romantic, personal, professional, then you want to identify what those secret fears are. Like, what are those fears that keep you up at night? What are those fears that keep you crying in your pillow, that you don't want to share with anyone? And you want to start identifying those fears so you can start working on them. And if you're like, how can I work on them? Girl, I can help you out. If you don't know, I am a transformational coach. I do work with women to build a heightened level of confidence so they can have the best life and be the best version of themselves. I do run a free challenge, a free 5-day challenge, that helps you build heightened confidence. And actually, I recently, I'm going to start incorporating relationship with money as well, because I think money is an important resource to helping you have the best life you want. So, if that's something you're interested in, definitely check out the link in the description, which will sign you up for the free 5-day challenge. But the work do with clients is all about changing your relationship with fear. First, identifying what your fears are, then really working on your mindset to help you change your relationship with negative emotions, show you how to start to embrace negative emotions and fears in a healthier way so you can be the most confident, amazing version of yourself, and you can live your best life. You can have the most amazing lifestyle you want. You can feel more fulfilled, you can be more happy, you can feel more satisfied, you can feel more contentment in life. If that sounds like anything you're interested in, then definitely check out the link to the free 5-day challenge, and we can get you started on the journey to the most amazing life possible. But I'm gonna end it on that note, and I need to come up with some quick outro that I can do that basically says like, comment, subscribe if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, then please be sure to leave an honest review, to help boost the presence of the podcast and get more people joining the fierce feminine community. Like, ladies, let's grow together. Let's live our best life together. Let's be our most confident, authentic, content, happy, fulfilled, sexy, amazing, financially abundant selves that we know we can be, and we know we deserve. Like, we are ready. We are ready. Can you hear my clicking? I noticed like sometimes I play back episodes I've recorded and I was like clicking and you can't even hear the freaking click. And I'm like, well, that defeats the purpose. I hope you can hear this clicking now. Anyways, like I said, I'm going to end it there, and I will catch you in the next episode. Take care.